I'm exhausted. That's disturbing, isn't it?
Wow. That was the first time you had seen the film in a while, wasn't it?
Yes, and I really had forgotten a lot. I mean, I remembered, the scenes I did, some of them, not all of them. But I had forgotten how magnificently it's photographed.
Yeah.
And the other scenes and the music, that score is so beautiful. So I'd forgotten the whole experience of the movie. I remembered things like there's a certain scene where I'm in my apartment and already out of it and walking through the apartment, and the camera was mounted on me.
Oh, wow.
I had a brace over my shoulders, and, instead of a Steadicam or something, I was the Steadicam, and the camera was right in my face here, and I was wearing the whole thing, and it was heavy. And that's one of my clearest memories of the movie, is because that was unusual. I don't know if anybody's ever had the camera mounted on.
So when you first received the script for Requiem for a Dream, what was your initial reaction to the story and to Sarah, and what made you want to tackle this role?
I didn't. I hated it. I said, these people are so depressing. Nobody wants to see this. I wouldn't want to sit through this movie. No. And I told the people before, and when I was introduced before the film, that my manager suggested I look at Darren's work. He had made Pi by then, and when I looked at it, I was so impressed with him. I knew he was a real artist, and so I just went for it because of Darren. And then, of course, once I got into it and once I understood it more deeply than just superficially the way I'd read it, then I became more invested in it.
So were there things that he did on the set that sort of made you feel safe in this kind of very dark world, or did he push you to, explore some of the outer limits of this character? I mean,
no.
Oh.
No, I usually come with an offering.
Okay.
That's generally accepted. But he did things like, which I've never had a director do this before. In the scene where I'm really out of it, and all the office workers call the police, I did that scene. We did it several takes, I think 7 or 8 takes. And then Darren said to me, okay, that's great, we've got it, that's in the can. But just do one more, any way you want. That's what's in the film. And there was something about being liberated, of having already done it, that now it was just whatever I wanted, and whatever I wanted turned out to be the right thing. I've never really had a director do that before. But it was quite an amazing ordeal because I had to wear I wore a 40-pound fat suit for the beginning, and then a 20-pound fat suit after a while. And then we had a 2-week break right at the point where I had to lose weight. So I did the awful cabbage soup diet for 2 weeks and lost another 10 pounds. So I have a 50-pound loss, 60, or I can't count, a lot. A lot of pounds I lost during the film. And so that was a very big part of it. And I wore a neck thing for the double chin that was glued on me every day. It was a whole piece that went down to my chest. And during the course of the day, the pores in my body sucked up the glue, so that it was very hard to take off. And it was in me. And it took about an hour and a half to get it off every night.
Oh my gosh.
Just pulling and scraping and, using harsh chemicals to
gosh.
get in. It was very painful. So a lot of the experience of this film was the discomfort. That's what I tend to remember when I think about this film. So it was interesting for me to see it tonight as a film. I think it's the first time I have just really seen it as a film, and it's a great film. Darren's work is really extraordinary.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I wanted to go back a couple years to one of my very favorite films of yours, for which you won the Best Actress Oscar, which is Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore. Another young, wild upstart director, Mr. Martin Scorsese. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the process of getting that film made, because that was really a project that you shepherded, and you went and you found a young Martin Scorsese and brought him on to direct the film. So you really were like a producer, and I know a lot of the script was sort of like incorporated some of the anecdotes from your life as well. So what was that like for you, you know, an actress in the 70s, like shepherding this project from its inception?
Well, it was pretty unheard of at the time. But I was shooting The Exorcist in New York, and the dailies were being sent to California to John Daly at Warner Brothers. John Calley, sorry. And so he called my agent and said, we want to do another picture with her. And so they sent me all the scripts that they had. And it was right at the beginning of the women's movement. It was, you know, in the 1970s, like 72, 73. And all the scripts that they already had with parts for women that they sent to me, they were either The Prostitute with the Heart of Gold, or the victim who gets raped and slaughtered, or the good wife who stays home while her husband goes out and saves the world, and when he comes back, she makes him some nice hot chocolate. And I said, I don't want to do a film like that. I want to do a film about a woman like the women that I know. And so we found this script, Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore, an original version of it, because it went through many changes after that. And John Calley agreed to do it, and he asked me if I wanted to direct it, and I said, no, I'm not ready to direct and act at the same time. I just got ready this year. And he said, who do you want to direct it? And I said, somebody new and exciting, because I had worked with Peter Bogdanovich when he was new and exciting, and it seemed to me to be a really good way to go. The same with Billy. Billy Friedkin was pretty new then. He had made The French Connection, but he hadn't been through the hamburger machine of Hollywood, and he still had his artistic juices flowing properly. So I asked Francis Coppola, I said, who's new and exciting? And he said, look at a film called Mean Streets, which Marty had made and Warner Brothers had bought, but it hadn't been released yet. So I looked at it, and I had a meeting with Marty, and I said, I want this. I saw your film Mean Streets, and I loved it, but I want Alice to be told from a woman's point of view. And looking at Mean Streets, I can't really tell if you know anything about women at all. Do you? And he said, no, but I'd like to learn. I said, you're hired.
You're like, I will teach you.
So we had a great collaboration.
Oh, that's wonderful. I mean, it is a film that stands out in his filmography, because so many of his films are about men and relationships between men, and I feel like your imprint is so on this film because it is such a warm, female-oriented, like really honest portrayal of Alice's story and the women that she works with, and I think people really did connect with that story. I mean, it went on and became a sitcom and all of that, so I think you really did, you know, you are the auteur behind Alice.
Yeah, it was a wonderful film, and I've been surprised. I mean, of course, I expected to hear from women saying how they identified with the film, but many men have told me that that film, the relationship was like their relationship with their mother, and they related to the film that way.
Mm-hmm. That's wonderful. So you did mention that you were ready this year to start directing, and you made your directorial debut, which is coming out soon?
No, it's not shot yet.
Oh, you're going to, okay.
Yeah, I have a script that I want to act in and direct, and we've been putting it together for 3 years now, and it comes together, and then it falls apart, and then it comes together again, and then it falls apart again. And this has been going on for 3 years, and I said, how does anybody ever get a film made? It never used to be this way. But that's what's happened to the business since the multinational corporations have purchased all the big movie studios, and they make movies according to their algorithms that tell them, you know, if a movie made X millions of dollars, then a sequel will make X more millions of dollars. And they repeat it, and that's what they're doing. So the filmmakers have all fallen into the independent film business. That's where movies are being made, like used to be made at the studios. So what I've discovered is that the casting director is the financier. And the financier says, here's a list of actors that we will finance, so cast from that list. Well, that list goes all around Hollywood, so that little list of actors that means something to the financiers get offered all the parts. Therefore, they're very busy. So, and if you don't have a lot of money to offer them, then you have to get very, very lucky. And getting lucky in the independent film business at this point is a very interesting up and down ride. Yeah. So that's what I'm doing these days.
Well, I'm excited, and I hope we see it soon.
Thank you.
I have one follow-up question for that, but I did want to say that this is, I'm not going to ask all the questions, even though I would like to. But this is a town hall style Q&A, so there are mics there and there. So if you want to ask a question, think of a really good one. Make sure it's a good one. And, just come up, line up at the mic, and we'll take some questions. But do you, when it comes to directing, when you approach directing, is there anything that you've sort of like taken from directors that you've worked with that you've sort of like, oh, that's a stylistic reference, or some, like any kind of on-set approach that you might borrow from Marty or Peter or Billy?
Yeah, well, I've worked with some of the really great directors, particularly the great directors in the 70s, although I've worked recently with like Christopher Nolan, some others, and I hope I've learned from them all, because I do pay attention to what's happening around me. I've been artistic director and/or one of the presidents of the Actors Studio for, 40 years or something. So I'm working with actors all the time. So I feel confident in that area. And I'm a photographer, so I have a skilled eye, so I'm okay there. Doing them both at the same time will be a challenge. But I'm not going to know until I get, in the ring. So we'll see.
Well, here's hoping it happens soon. I hope it happens soon.
Thank you, me too.
Did we have any questions? Oh, yeah. Let's go.
First off, I'd like to say thank you for being here. This was amazing. Secondly, I would like to say that Julia Roberts doesn't have shit on you in this movie. So, and I know a lot of people agree. And finally, I don't even know how many times I've seen this movie, but every time it gets to the part where you give the monologue about being old, it all but wrecks me.
It what?
It all but wrecks me. How do you get into that space to perform in a way that wrecks people, I guess, is the way I could word that best.
Well, because it was real. I experienced my own aging at that moment, much to my surprise. I didn't even know I had it until I said it. And when I said it, it arrested me, and therefore you.
Well, thank you. It's amazing. Every time I see it, thank you.
Thank you.
That seems like a Strasbergian, a Lee Strasberg Actors Studio type of thing, that like it's not about pretending, it's about being. Was that something that you worked with him?
It's about being real. That's always my goal in any scene, is being real, and how to make something real for me. In that particular instance, it was real, period. Other times, I have to make it real. I have to find a way. I have to find something else that's real, that's, a correlation that I can refer to that'll bring me into that place.
I think we had a question over there. What happened to that lady?
I was going to ask the preparation physically on the set, when you had to get when it was so difficult getting the neck piece on and stuff, did that help you? Because you were saying you used different things to make it real, and I just imagine that to be part of
I'm not sure I'm hearing you. Can you repeat?
So the question is about the actual prosthesis that you were wearing. Did that help you get into character? The double chin and neck piece that you had to wear?
I don't remember that it did.
Okay.
I don't remember. The thing that helped me get into that character mostly was Darren's mother. That was a very low budget, and they didn't have money for catering. On his first picture, his mother did all the catering herself. On this picture, there was a caterer, but his mother and father were on the set every day, being supportive and helpful, and they're wonderful people, and I was doing his mother.
So is that her accent?
Yeah.
It's a great accent.
Yeah, it was very helpful. I went and talked to her every morning, asked how she was, and
Where in New York is he from?
I guess
Coney
it's
Island?
Brooklyn.
Oh, Brooklyn? Yeah.
I think that's Brooklyn.
Okay.
Yeah. That line of women outside the building was something Darren had seen every day growing up, and couldn't wait to put it in a movie.
It's so interesting. Just as an aside, it's like last fall, everyone was totally shocked by Mother. Did you see Mother, Darren's movie? And I'm like, he's been doing this for a while, guys. That's a very intense movie as well. We shouldn't have been surprised that Mother was as intense as it was.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go over here to this question.
Thank you. Even though it's such a devastatingly depressing movie, it's one of my favorites, I think, because of the power that it has. And a lot of that comes through the editing, the audio-visual qualities of it. A lot of that comes together in post. Was much of that energy apparent during the production of it, or did it surprise you when you saw the finished movie?
Did I hear the question? I'm a little hard of hearing now. Did I hear the question that was the editor part of the
I
film?
think he was asking about, you were asking about the energy
Yeah,
of the
the
film?
energy that comes out in the finished film, was much of that apparent in the actual production, or did that surprise you when you saw the finished film?
The energy.
The energy, the fast cutting and the very manic energy, was that something that was palpable on set? Or?
No.
Oh, yeah.
No, I don't think so. Well, most of my things are separate from anyone else's. And I think the editing, which is brilliant, does that, brings that energy to it. And also the music and the fast cutting. The cutting is really extraordinary. I don't think I ever appreciated it before tonight, or I don't remember that I did.
Yeah, it's really remarkable. What's that?
Who is Betty? She was mentioned.
I don't know. No, I
It was
don't
in
know.
the end credits. It was dedicated to a woman named Betty.
Yeah.
Does anybody in this audience know the answer to this fun fact? Because I don't know it. Go on
I don't
IMDb
remember
and get
seeing
on
it
the mic.
before.
Okay.
You mentioned working with Christopher Nolan. I wanted to ask you, how did you go about realistically portraying the woman who saved the world and Matthew McConaughey's daughter in Interstellar?
I don't know. I don't know. Sometimes I just do it. I wish I had a good answer. I don't.
All right. Well, keep thinking of questions, and someone look up the thing about the dedication, and we'll figure that out.
Okay.
You have done so many amazingly iconic films: The Exorcist, The Last Picture Show, Alice, Requiem, on and on, Interstellar. Do you have a favorite film out of your filmography, or one that you enjoy watching, or one that you had the most fun on, the best experience shooting?
You know, all the films that you made, of course, I like very much. They're very dear to my heart. But I have two films that are not well known, that didn't do well, didn't make a lot of money, that are very close to my heart too. And one is a film called The King of Marvin Gardens. And that's a film, if you haven't seen it, you might enjoy. It's with Jack Nicholson and Bruce Dern. And somebody just laughed like Jack Nicholson. I just heard who did that. And it was a film that came out, and all the critics hated it and panned it and called it bad names. And it was buried. Nobody saw it. And then 30 years went by, and all of a sudden I'm reading, King of Marvin Gardens is a classic. Where has this been? And then all of a sudden all the critics loved it. So that's an unfortunate thing that can happen in the way we do business, show business, film business. That's I like that film a lot. I like the work in it a lot. And I have a film called Resurrection, thank you, that I contributed a lot to in terms of the script and the story and so forth. And that again, well, that wasn't killed by the critics, that was killed by the studio. Universal didn't handle that very well. And that's a film, in it I play a healer, and the film has a very strange life. The whole healing community knows the film, and all the chiropractors know the film, and the massage therapists, and the people who do energy healing with their hands, and people use it to teach in their teaching sessions when they give seminars, healing seminars. So it has a life, but it's not in the general public, and that's a film I care a lot about.
So we all have some good recommendations to go home and watch.
Yeah.
Question over here.
Good evening, Ms. Burstyn. Thank you so much for sharing with us this evening. When I mentioned that I was coming to see this film tonight, I've had friends who have said once was enough, because it's a heavy watch. I've only caught it maybe 3 times since its release because of that. It's one of my favorite films, but it's hard to.
Which one?
It's
Requiem.
Requiem.
It is hard to
It's
watch.
exhausting.
Yeah.
It's exhausting. And I mentioned this. I had several people. I mentioned this today on Facebook. I had several people mention or ask if I had seen the director's cut, which I have not. And they suggest
this?
Of this film.
There's a
That-
director's cut?
There's
I
apparent-
believe this is the unrated version that they showed tonight.
all right.
I don't know. Is it? Yeah.
So no other cut, because I've had a couple people suggest that there was a
This
very,
is the director's cut?
I think so, but I'd have to have someone who actually got the DCP. Oh, is that the director's cut? That's the only version I've seen. Okay.
Very well, thank you very much.
Wait, what was the question?
That was it. It was really about what I've been told about the director's cut. Was that it was a much that the tone of the cut was completely different, but
Like more intense?
that it was campier.
Oh.
That it was in fact that it wasn't that the entire feeling was more caricature and campier.
That the director's cut was campier, or the?
That is correct.
Oh yeah.
Yes, that's correct.
It's interesting. I don't know. I think I've only seen the one version that I've seen.
I have no idea.
All right. Sorry. Thanks.
That's okay. It's a good discussion piece. Oh, question over
Hi.
here.
Yes, good evening. With a long career, you must have had some roles offered that you didn't take that you'd look back now and say, wouldn't that have been the role of a lifetime in addition to the ones you've had? Any come to mind?
One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Oh, that's right. Yes, I read about that.
I turned that down. Probably shouldn't have.
I would have loved to see your take on Nurse Ratched.
Yeah. I had a couple of good reasons for not doing it. And there's another one more recently, but I can't remember what it is. I was just thinking about one the other day that I thought, I probably should have done that. But, you know, you make mistakes sometimes in life.
Not too bad. Great career. Thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you.
Are there any directors that you never got to work with that you admired their work or would have liked to work with them? Sorry, I know that's like putting you on the spot.
No, I'm just thinking, I would like to do a Star Wars film. Yeah.
Okay, who's directing the next Star Wars?
J.J. Abrams.
Okay, you're on it, yes.
I've got him in my gun sight.
I'm going to start a campaign on Twitter as soon as this is over. What kind of character would you like to play in Star Wars?
I don't know.
Like a I don't know any of the names of things in Star Wars. Like an alien or like a Starship Command
Oh,
pilot?
something modest like the Queen of the Universe.
Okay. Yes. Just get a big crown.
Yeah, with powers, you know.
Yes. I'm liking this idea. We can work with this. Yes, over here.
What is your favorite memory moment, actress or actor that you've worked with? Do you have a special moment that you just really treasure?
So the question is about a favorite memory about an actor or an actress that you might have worked with.
Oh, I can tell you. I was making a movie in France called, can't remember now. It was John Gielgud. And we were shooting in an old chateau, Providence, it's called, and Dirk Bogarde. And we were shooting in an empty chateau in France. And we were using it, the whole empty chateau, as our movie set, stage. And it was unheated, and it was very cold. And I did my shot. We were shooting outside, and it was freezing cold. And I finally finished, and I came inside, and I was shivering. And there was a fireplace in my huge bedroom. And I went back outside in the nearby woods and collected wood and brought it in and made a fire in my fireplace and sat in front of it and warmed myself. And in a little while, I heard, because John Gielgud was still outside shooting, I heard him coming up the stairs. And I said, John, I have a fire at my fireplace if you'd like to come in and warm yourself. He said, oh, thank you, darling. And he came in and I got a blanket that I had and wrapped around him. And I said, would you like some brandy? And he said, oh, that would be lovely. So I went to his room and got his brandy and brought it up on a tray in a brandy glass. And as I walked toward him, and he was sitting huddled with my blanket around him in front of the fire I built in the French chateau, I thought, this is one of the happiest moments of my life.
It's so cozy.
It was great.
That's lovely. That's a lovely memory. All right, we have another question right here.
Hi. That was really whimsical. Felt like I was transported. I don't actually have a question. I just have an answer to
Oh,
the
good.
question about who Betty is from
Great.
my reliable sources on Reddit. From my quick Google search. It's Darren Aronofsky's grandmother, for anyone who wants to know.
Okay, so Betty,
That's it.
whom Requiem was dedicated to, is Darren Aronofsky's grandmother.
Oh, thank you for that.
Yes.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Crowdsourcing. That's what we like to do. It is a good question because it makes you wonder, why he dedicated it to her, or, maybe she had just passed, and I don't know, but.
Well, Darren, he's very close to his family. They're school teachers. They're wonderful people. And I imagine the whole family was very close. And, he was always being visited on the set by somebody he was in grade school with. Or, he's a very mishbuka kind of guy. So I'm not surprised that he would dedicate it to his grandmother.
He seems like a family guy.
Yeah. He's very smart and very nice, very good. I just love him. He's a wonderful human being.
Do you ever see him? Mm-hmm. Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Well, you both live in New York, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
We stay in touch with each other.
That's great. Would you ever work with him again?
Hopefully. I did another film with him. I did Fountain with him.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Thank you. He's active in the ecological movement, and I am, so we go on marches together for the planet, and that kind of thing.
Wonderful. Mm-hmm. We have another question over here.
Hi, Ms. Burstyn. Thanks for being here tonight. It's been so lovely. My question is, while filming The Exorcist, did you guys know you were basically making like the scariest film of all time?
This is a good question.
Was it just like, oh, this movie's cool, but then in the end it was like, holy crap. Like,
Yeah, did you have any idea what you were getting into while you were working on that?
We had some idea because, the book was such a huge hit.
Yeah, the book was a monster hit.
And there was a lot of anticipation about the film, and everybody in Hollywood wanted the part of Chris McNeil, and it was a great coup to be able to land it. And there was a lot of, people were waiting for it. As a matter of fact, I remember the morning that it opened. I happened to be in Hollywood at the time, and I came into the kitchen and made a cup of coffee, and the TV was on, and they were showing people who had been in line all night in Montreal in snow, waiting for the film for the movie house to open. And I looked at the TV, sipping my coffee. I said, people, it's a movie.
It's not worth a toe.
Really. But, we had an idea that it was going to be well received, let's say. Billy and I went to a sneak preview together and sat next to each other. And during the film, we were surprised that there was laughter. And I was confused by that in some of the scariest moments, the audience would laugh. And I later learned that that's when people are really unsettled. That's a way to regain stability. And so there was a group reaction of,
It's a release, like screaming, crying, laughter. It's all releasing that energy.
Right.
Yeah, I love that movie as well. It's such a classic. Gosh, all right. Well, thank you for your question.
Thank you.
We have another question over here.
Okay, my first question was kind of covered when I was up here last time, and I'm up here again, and I wanted to know a little bit more about you. You say you're involved in saving the planet, and I love that, but where did you grow up, and your family, and when did you know you wanted to become an actress? Was that part of your childhood, or how did it come about?
I grew up in Detroit. My mother was married 4 times, so I had basically no father, as there were strangers. So I had a really, I would say, difficult childhood. And I got to the point much later in life, much to my surprise, that I realized that I had all these wonderful things to call on when I had to do a difficult emotional scene. And I actually one day said, "Thank you for my difficult childhood." That was good. Yeah, I found it really was helpful artistically, but also psychologically to, be able to examine all of those things and come to terms with them and transform them and wake myself up so I could live a conscious life, not just be happy and asleep. So I'm okay about it. And I didn't want to be I did want to be an actress when I was a kid. I had fantasies. I remember when I was around 7, I wrote I want to thank the members of the Academy for voting for me for this great award. But then I had a list of other possibilities. I could be a lawyer or a veterinarian. I had 5 things: an actress or something else or a nun.
That's always on the table.
Yeah, right. And then one day it occurred to me that if I chose being an actress, I could play a lawyer, a veterinarian, and I have all of those things, so I made that choice. I was a model for a long time, and then I kind of transitioned from modeling to acting through commercials.
Do we have another question?
Yes, hi.
Hi.
Thank you for being here.
You're welcome.
I have a question. I could probably just look up the answer, but since you're here, I was wondering.
She'll give a better, funnier answer anyway.
I was wondering if you've ever worked, you've mentioned so many great directors, but have you ever worked with any female directors? And I ask because it's a very timely conversation right now that there are women behind the camera and there's equal representation behind the camera, but I was wondering throughout your career, was there that lack of representation, was that something that you had awareness of?
So I've heard the part about have I ever worked with a female director. Do I need to know more?
That's the main question, but were you aware of the fact that there was sort of gender inequality behind the camera?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I did work with one female director some years back, who was not my favorite director. And I worked with a female DP, director of photography. But when we did Alice, I said I want as many women as possible. So after Marty, we had production designer was a woman, the editor was a woman. Every job that we could fill with a woman, we did.
Was it Thelma Schoonmaker?
Was it what?
Was it Thelma Schoonmaker who was the editor on Alice?
No, it was George Lucas's wife, Marsha. Yeah. And Toby Rafelson was a production designer. She was Bob Rafelson's wife.
So did you think that changed the atmosphere of the set, having more women around, or was it just business as usual?
Well, I recently was in Scandinavia. I was given an award for the Stockholm Film Festival. And the festival was run by 2 women. And then opening night, they introduced the Minister of Culture, and it was a woman. And I said to one of them afterwards, I said, there's a lot of women in power around here. And she said, well, we've had gender equality for 2 generations. I said, how is that working out? And she said, it's great. And I said, how is it different? And she said, what we've discovered is they have equal number of gender in their, their Senate. And she said, we've discovered that men work to win and women work for consensus. And it works really well in the government. And I thought, well, we could use a little of that.
We certainly could. Especially now. We need a little consensus.
Yeah. I'm not going to pick up on that.
Moving on. I appreciate your candor. Yes. Well, I think we can take maybe 1 or 2 more questions. So, right here.
Thank you for joining us this evening. Knowing what you know about Hollywood and working in Hollywood, what would you advise your 21-year-old self?
Good question.
I think I did it right. The only thing that I didn't do was I didn't, for instance, when I did produce, for all intents and purposes, Alice doesn't live here anymore, and when John Calley said, do you want production credit, do you want producer credit? I said, oh no, I just want a good part in the movie, and that was dumb.
Take the credit.
You know, I should have said, yes, of course I want producing credit, because that means that I own the film and that I get money forever, you know. It wasn't smart. So I think owning my own power, I didn't do. And it took me a long while to figure that out.
That is a very difficult thing to do in the industry that is so cutthroat. You're just happy to get a little piece of something that you can do and make, and you know, you're talking about your film that you're just like, let's just get it made, you know, like let's just get it going. But I think it is really hard to own your power in the industry.
I think also being brought up a girl.
Yeah, for sure.
That you know, your thinking goes in a certain direction, and you don't. Or I didn't. You know, I was born in 1932, so it wasn't even a possibility until the 70s to think of yourself in that kind of position. We were always the server, you know, that I so enjoyed, like with John Gielgud. But I mean, I think it's fun to serve. I like to serve when I'm, you know, married, and I like to make dinner for my husband and bring him his slippers. I mean, that's part of being a woman. But the other part, the other taking your power, that really needs to be consciously learned.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
And I know we have another question over here.
My question has changed like
I don't think your
times.
mic's on.
Yeah, can you talk a little bit more? Can you talk a little bit more into the mic?
I'm just wondering what you have not, what you would feel like you've not done that you would like to do, and who you would like to act with, like be in a role with.
So the question is there anything that you have not yet done that you would like to do, and is there anybody that you would like to act with? Or wait, was it the question about a role that you'd like to play,
I think I missed Joan of Arc.
Oh.
I think I have to give that up. I always wanted to play that.
If there's something you feel like you would like to do that you haven't done yet, that you have an urge to play out.
Oh, okay. I think it's, so is it about an acting role that she has not done yet?
That you would like to do.
Okay, so Joan of Arc is one.
Yeah. I have to play Joan of Arc's grandmother now.
Is there any particular actor that you would like to work with in the future?
One that's on the financier's list that will play my son.
I like that, yes.
And also another actor on the financier's list who will play the young actor in the movie. Those two actors.
You'd love to play their mother.
Yes, yeah. But I can't think of, Mark Rylance, the great English actor. Oh, he's wonderful. We just had him at the Actors Studio. We made him a member, and he did an evening and talked about Shakespeare, and it was just so glorious. He's just really a brilliant actor. I'd love to do anything with him. I've sent him a script, a play I'd like to do, and I don't expect him to say yes, but I would be very happy if he did.
Well, I'm so thrilled that you were here tonight, and I'm so excited to see what you continue to do and what roles you are. And I really want your movie to get made. So let's make this happen, people. We can do this.
Okay.
But thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Oh, it was wonderful to speak with you. Thank you so
Thanks a
much.
lot.